What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Hanson, and today we're going to take a look at volume 58 of the Ready or Not development update. They mentioned a good bit of stuff here, and it's something that's going to lead me into a bit of contention I've seen around Ready or Not here lately, both in the subreddit and on Discord and different places. And something I feel like we can discuss here, because I want you guys' input, so stick around for that. But without further ado, let's jump into Ready or Not's volume 58 development update. So we are going to move past the introduction. However, I do want you to remember this name, Bradley. He is an AI designer for Ready or Not, and he's going to be talking about some of the issues he's run across and some of the challenges he has in making this game as good as possible. So let's continue. So this first section here, the gameplay loop. At its core, Ready or Not thrives on immersing players in a realistic, challenging, tactical first-person shooter environment. However, this comes with challenges. How do we make the gameplay loop feel stable and challenging while remaining fair? The answer to this is quite complex, and to properly immerse the player, we're exploring many ways that AI can interact and react to certain situations. So this is pretty interesting. The fact he mentions while remaining fair. You know, it's kind of a difficult balance to make a computer, which is what the AI is, a computer behave like a human. You know, it's super hard to recreate that. I feel like we've just now with ChatGPT gotten where we can make them talk like a person, but we still aren't to where we can make them act like a person. So it really is taking on a whole nother thing, trying to make it as realistic as possible, especially in a situation like combat. So that part, while remaining fair, I feel is probably a very, very hard thing for them to accomplish. So moving on. So the next section here, Suspect AI, the freedom of movement. We have a quote here from Bradley where he does call out some other games. He doesn't say exactly what games, but he says they have an advantage over other departments where they're able to embrace chaos. Talk about how in most linear combat games, where whether in combat or out of combat, where the AI was originally placed is kind of what they think of as their barrier. But what Ready or Not's trying to do is say, okay, cool, they're fine to an area, but once this combat starts, they need to imagine the whole map as their playground and not just that one area they were spawned in. And I've seen this multiple times, and it really is an immersion building experience with Ready or Not, because I've gotten into engagements with suspects in a house, in a certain room, seen them run out the back door, and then been able to hear them move all the way around the house and then try to come in from behind me through the front door. Now, the sound level of the footsteps kind of ruined that feeling of, you know, being ambushed from behind like that, but it really did create a feeling of, wow, these AI are thinking. You know, he got into an engagement and said, oh crap, I need to run. Well, wait, maybe I can flank him around. So it made me feel like he really did have a brain in that moment, and it was really neat to see. So I do see what Bradley is talking about here. Moving down a little bit more, we see this paragraph here in which he talks about adding a spawn grouping system. And what this does is that it actually limits the amount of AI that can be in a certain area. And this is something that for Ground Branch has been kind of immersion destroying for me in a weird way. And it's where the AI just piles through a door. You know, you'll get 1, 2, 3, 10 guys push through that door, and weirdly that does ruin your immersion experience, because you understand that's not how a normal person will behave when they saw 6 guys run through a room and get dropped immediately. They understand, I don't need to go through that door too, because I will have the same fate. So that is an immersion destroying experience. So it is really interesting to see that they're addressing that. This next section here, Suspect AI decision making. I love this quote. Suspects have unfortunately been seen as targets you have to stun or kill, because they'll inevitably shoot at you once they become aware. And this is what I feel is important, very important, in making a police tactical game. Because with a military tactical game, you're typically going to have enemies that are more devout, more committed to their cause, so they are going to be less likely to throw their guns down and give up. However, in a crack house where you walk inside and everybody's making, you know, drugs, they are going to have less likely of a chance to, you know, stand their ground for this. You know, there are going to be those people who, like he says through here, will act surprised and cower, and others who may hold their ground. So it's good to see that they're addressing that this is a police tactical shooter, so not every member is going to be some devout, crazed gunman, right? So it is neat to see that. And again, we're moving in line with that law enforcement making here with this next section about use of force, and they talk about the use of force continuum, and this is something that is drilled into the heads of law enforcement, where, you know, it goes down the chain. When you first show up to a call, just your presence, your blue lights, your uniform, your behavior in the scene, that is your presence. That is the first step in the use of force continuum, and you do have majority of the public who respects that and goes with it. And if that doesn't happen, we're moving into verbal, the way you talk, the way you say things, things like that, verbal judo. Then you move into, you know, soft empty hand control, then hard empty hand, then less lethal, then lethal. So it is interesting to see that they are taking the terms that are used in law enforcement especially and trying to push them into a game. I'm glad that they punish you when you know, take out somebody who is simply just not putting their gun down. You know, if they're not pointing at you, not putting it down, you need to think of some other methods. You know, they're not necessarily being hostile to you. So I do like to see that they are really, really pushing. This is a police tactical game. It's not a military sim. It is a police sim. So that is really good to see. So I also want to address what's been seen on the Reddit and the Discord and different places like that about Ready or Not. And let me show you what I'm talking about. So bringing you guys back to the development page, if we scroll down past this update that just came out and we get into the next one, you'll see they're talking about artwork. They're talking about artistic changes to the game and the design. Moving on from that one into the next one, again, we're talking about design and, you know, concept art. Moving on from that, map making, concept art. Moving on from that, concept art and a little bit of the inner workings of the game. And moving on from that, ton of concept art. So I don't know if you guys caught the trend there, but they've had a lot of, you know, concept art and how they're making artistic changes in the game and the design changes and map creation, but not much of the inner workings. So a lot of people have criticized Ready or Not for this. They've stated, you know, it's kind of hard for us to keep backing a game when all you're releasing is concept art and not working on the behind the scenes kind of stuff. And I'll be honest, I think I kind of understand Ready or Not doing what they're doing here. And to explain that, I want to bring up the game Unrecord. Unrecord's official game trailer came out in April of this year, and everyone in the community was thrown back by it. The visuals were absolutely stunning. There was something about it that seemed almost surreal in watching it. I showed it to coworkers, and they didn't really react to it. They assumed it was body cam footage until the second I said, this is a video game. And then they were thrown back as well. And everybody was stunned by that. But nobody asked, what's the interaction like? Nobody asked, how is the AI working? Nobody asked, well, what are the controls here? Nobody asked, is this a sequence? Everybody was just so thrown by the graphics of it that nobody asked that question. So to bring that back to Ready or Not, I can understand that they're pushing so hard on the look of the game, because the look of the game is, I feel, what brings people who aren't even in the community into the game. People that are in the community already, we really, really care about how the AI behaves and how it acts, and this isn't something they need to neglect. They need to mix this stuff into the game a lot. However, I really do understand them pushing how good their game will look. And on top of that, people are upset that they're not pushing out an update every week and a half. And to that I say, I would understand that if their periodic updates were weak. However, that's not what we've seen in Ready or Not's history. We've seen big updates. Pretty much every time this game has an update, it is massive. So with that being said, I understand what Ready or Not's doing. We need to keep pushing these developers to do better and better things, because I think they are, but we have to be a positive community for them in order to continue to make sure that they are making the games that we want and need in this community. Let me know what you guys think about this video down in the comments. I'm excited to talk with each and every one of you, and if you haven't joined this channel and you like tactical games and gameplay, I think you found your home here, and we would love to have you. Everybody, please be safe, stay happy, and peace out.